Kim Do-hyun had dreamed of this moment his entire life. He stood inside a spacecraft that was not built by human hands. The walls were made of something like crystal, and they glowed with soft blue light. Everything smelled clean, like rain on fresh snow. He was one of 12 humans chosen to meet the aliens who had arrived above Earth 3 months ago. The Valari. That was what they called themselves. Their massive ship floated above Seoul like a second moon. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The whole world had watched as it appeared from nowhere. Some people prayed. Some people ran. But Do-hyun had simply stared up at the sky and whispered, "Finally." He had spent 15 years studying languages. Not just human languages, but the idea of language itself. How beings communicate. How meaning travels from one mind to another. He had written papers about how humans might one day talk to aliens. And now, here he was, about to meet them. His colleague Park Ji-yeon walked beside him. She was calm as always, her dark hair pulled back tight. "Stop shaking," she whispered. "I am not shaking. Your hands are shaking." Do-hyun shoved his hands into his pockets. She was right. He was terrified. But he was also more excited than he had ever been in his life. The 12 humans walked through a long hallway. Valari guards stood on both sides. They were tall, almost 7 feet, with silver skin that seemed to glow from inside. Their eyes were large and dark, like pools of night sky filled with tiny stars. They wore robes that flowed like water. They did not speak. They did not need to. Their faces showed nothing. At the end of the hallway was a massive door. It opened without sound, and the humans stepped into a throne room. Do-hyun forgot how to breathe. The room was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high that it disappeared into soft white mist. Pillars of crystal rose from the floor like frozen trees. And at the center of it all, on a throne made of pure light, sat the queen. She was the most beautiful thing Do-hyun had ever seen. Her skin was silver like the guards, but brighter, as if stars lived beneath her surface. Her hair was white and floated around her head like she was underwater. Her eyes were not dark like the others. They were filled with swirling galaxies, blues and purples and silvers, all moving slowly, endlessly. She wore a gown that seemed to be made of moonlight itself. She looked eternal, ancient, powerful beyond anything Do-hyun could understand. And when her eyes met his heart stopped. Was not just attraction. It was not just admiration. It was something deeper, something that grabbed his soul and refused to let go. In that single moment, Kim Do-hyun fell completely and hopelessly in love. He knew it was crazy. He knew it made no sense. She was an alien queen who had lived for thousands of years. He was just a human who studied words. But love does not care about logic. Love strikes like lightning, and it had just burned him to his core. The queen's head tilted slightly. Her eyes narrowed. Around her, the Valari attendants began to whisper to each other in their musical language. Something was happening. Something Do-hyun did not understand. The human with the messy hair, the queen spoke. Her voice was like wind chimes and thunder mixed together. "Come forward." Ji-yeon pushed his back. Do-hyun stumbled forward on legs that felt like water. His face burned hot. His heart pounded so loud he was sure everyone could hear it. "Do you know what we are?" the queen asked. "What the Valari can do." "You are empaths," Do-hyun managed to say. His voice came out rough. "You can sense emotions." "Yes, we feel what others feel. It is how we have survived for so long. We sense danger before it arrives. We sense lies before they are spoken." She rose from her throne and descended the steps toward him. Each step was graceful, like a dancer moving through still water. "And right now, human, you are broadcasting your feelings so loudly that every Valari on this ship can hear you." Do-hyun wanted to die. He wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. I am sorry, he whispered. I did not mean to offend. Offend? The queen stopped in front of him. She was so close now that he could see the stars moving in her eyes. You have not offended me, Kim Doan. You have surprised me. And I have not been surprised in 3,000 years. I do not understand. Your species hides nothing. Your emotions are raw, wild, uncontrolled. Most Valari find this disturbing. We have spent thousands of years learning to quiet our feelings, to think clearly without the noise of emotion. She studied his face like he was a fascinating puzzle. But you looked at me, a being you have never met, a creature from another world, and you felt love. Pure, instant, complete love. Not desire, not curiosity, love. The other humans in the delegation were staring. The Valari attendants were whispering louder. Dahan wished he could disappear. In 10,000 years of ruling, the queen continued, no one has ever looked at me like that. Not my advisors. Not my subjects. Not even my family. They respect me. They fear me. They obey me. But you. She paused, and something strange flickered across her ancient face. You looked at me like I was something precious. You are, Dohan said before he could stop himself. The queen stared at him for a long moment. The entire room held its breath. Then she smiled. It was small, barely there, but it transformed her face from beautiful to breathtaking. Perhaps, she said softly, this alliance with humanity will be more interesting than I expected. She turned and walked back to her throne. But as she sat down, her galaxy eyes drifted back to Doan one more time, and in that look, he saw something that made his heart race even faster. Curiosity. 3 weeks passed on the Valari ship, and Kim Doan had become famous in the worst possible way. Everywhere he walked, the tall silver aliens stared at him. They whispered behind their hands. Some of them even stopped what they were doing just to watch him pass by. He had become the most interesting thing on a ship full of wonders. They are studying you, Jian told him one morning. They sat in the small room the humans had been given, drinking something that tasted almost like coffee but not quite. Dr. Han says the Valari have wanted to study human emotions for years. You just gave them a free show. I did not ask for this, Dohan groaned. He put his head in his hands. I cannot control what I feel. That is exactly what fascinates them. They control everything. Every feeling, every thought, every reaction. They find love through careful planning. They match partners based on genetics and politics. The idea of falling in love at first sight is like magic to them. It is not magic. It is torture. Jian laughed, but not unkindly. The queen has asked to see you again. 3rd time this week. Dohan's heart jumped. He hated how much hope he felt. It was stupid. She was a queen who had lived for 10,000 years. He was nobody. But every time she called for him, he went. He could not help himself. The queen received him in a smaller room this time. It was filled with strange plants that glowed in soft colors. She sat on a simple chair, not a throne, and she had dismissed all her guards. They were alone. Sit, she said, pointing to a chair across from her. I have questions. Doan sat. His hands were sweating. What do you want to know? Everything. She leaned forward, her galaxy eyes swirling faster than usual. Tell me about human love. Not the science. I know the science. Chemicals in the brain, hormones, biological drives. I want to know what it feels like. No one had ever asked Doan that question before. He thought for a moment, trying to find the right words. It feels like falling, he said slowly. Like the ground disappears under your feet, but instead of being scared, you feel free. It feels like finding something you did not know you were looking for. It feels like coming home to a place you have never been. The queen was silent. Her eyes never left his face, And the pain? She asked. Humans write so many songs about love hurting. Why would you want something that hurts? Because the hurt means it was real. A love that cannot hurt you is a love that does not matter. We would rather feel everything good and bad than feel nothing at all. Fascinating. She said the words softly, almost to herself. We Valari have spent thousands of years removing pain from our lives. We thought we were becoming stronger, but perhaps we were just becoming empty. Doan felt bold. Maybe too bold. But he asked anyway, "Have you ever loved anyone?" The Queen's expression flickered. For just a moment, she looked almost sad. I have had partners. Chosen carefully, approved by councils, matched for the good of the Empire. I respected them. I worked well with them. But love? She shook her head slowly. I do not think I know what that word truly means. That sounds lonely. It sounds practical. Loneliness is an emotion. I learned to silence it long ago. But you have not silenced curiosity, Doham pointed out. Or you would not keep calling me here. The Queen smiled that small, rare smile again. You are braver than you look, Kim Doan. Most beings are afraid to speak honestly to me. I am terrified of you. But I have never been good at lying. I know. I can feel it. She stood up and walked to a window that showed the stars outside. The negotiations are not going well. My council thinks humans are too emotional, too unpredictable. They see you as children playing with fire. Dohan stood too, walking to stand beside her. We are emotional. We are unpredictable. But that is not weakness. That is what makes us human. Can you prove that? Before Dohan could answer, alarms began to ring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. The Queen's peaceful expression vanished, replaced by cold authority. Keth scouts, she said sharply. At the edge of the system. The next few hours were chaos. The Valari fleet moved with perfect coordination, but in the confusion, a translation error nearly destroyed everything. A Valari commander misunderstood a human message and almost fired on an allied ship. Duhan worked without rest. He listened to recordings, compared translations, checked and double-checked every word. Something felt wrong. He could not explain it logically, but his gut told him there was a mistake somewhere. He found it at hour 36. A single word, translated incorrectly, had caused all the confusion. He reported it to Captain Yoon, who reported it to the Valari command. The crisis ended. When the Queen summoned him afterward, she looked at him differently than before. You saved the Alliance, she said. How did you know something was wrong? I felt it, Dohan admitted. I cannot explain it better than that. I just knew. You trusted your instinct. Your emotion. She stepped closer to him, closer than she had ever been before. My people would have analyzed the data for days before finding that error. You felt it in hours. Emotions are fast. Logic is slow. Sometimes you need both. Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper now. I am beginning to understand that. She reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were cool against his skin. His heart beat so hard he thought it might break. When we are alone, she said, you may call me Urena. Urena, he whispered and in her ancient eyes, he saw something new. Something that looked almost like the beginning of what humans called butterflies. The Valari High Council was not happy. Lord Varric, the Queen's oldest advisor, stood before the council with worry on his silver face. He had served Urena for 2,000 years. He had never seen her act like this. She spends too much time with the human, he reported. She asks about human bonding ceremonies. She requested videos of human weddings. She even asked about something called a honeymoon. The council members whispered among themselves. This was wrong. This was dangerous. A Valari queen should not be interested in primitive human customs. The humans are contaminating her, one counselor said. Their wild emotions are spreading like a disease. We must stop this before it goes further, another agreed. But Queen Urena had ruled for 10,000 years. She had survived wars, betrayals, and countless attempts to control her. She was not afraid of her own council. When she announced that she would visit Earth, the council was shocked. When she said Kim Do-eun would be her personal guide, they were horrified. Varek came to her private chambers that night. His face showed more emotion than she had seen from him in centuries. You risk everything, he warned. The Empire needs stability. It needs you to be stable. These feelings you are exploring are dangerous. Urena looked at him calmly. You are right. They are dangerous. They are terrifying, in fact. Varek stared at her. In 10,000 years, she had never admitted to being afraid of anything. But I have been stable for so long, she continued, that I forgot what it meant to be alive. I forgot what it felt like to want something for myself, not for the Empire. The human reminded me, he is mortal. He will die in what feels like a moment to us. Yes, that is what makes humans so remarkable. They love knowing it will end. They give their hearts knowing they will lose them. There is something beautiful in that courage. Varek had no answer. He bowed and left, but his worry remained. The Queen's ship landed outside Seoul on a warm spring day. The cherry blossom trees were in full bloom, their pink petals floating through the air like snow. Thousands of humans gathered to watch, kept back by barriers and guards. They held signs and cheered and cried. Urena stepped out of the ship and looked around at this strange blue world. The air was warm and smelled of flowers. The sun was yellow, not white like her home star. Everything was so different, so alive, so chaotic. She loved it immediately. Do-eun met her at the bottom of the ramp. He wore a nice suit instead of his usual messy clothes, and he had tried to fix his hair. It had not worked. His hair was still a disaster. But when he smiled at her, something in her chest felt warm. Welcome to Earth, Your Majesty. I told you to call me Urena. His smile grew wider. Welcome to Earth, Urena. Over the next few days, Do-eun showed her everything he loved about his planet. He took her to the busy streets of Seoul, where millions of humans lived their short, bright lives. He took her to quiet temples in the mountains, where monks had prayed for centuries. He took her to the countryside, where his grandmother had grown up, where the rice fields stretched to the horizon like green seas. Why don't you show me these simple places? Urena asked as they walked through a small village. I have seen stars born and galaxies collide. Why would I care about rice fields? Because this is where I come from, Do-eun said. This is what made me who I am. You cannot understand a person without understanding their home. She thought about this. On her world, places did not matter. Everything was controlled, planned, designed for maximum efficiency. There were no rice fields that held memories. There were no villages where grandmothers told stories. Show me more, she said. He took her to watch children flying kites in a park. She did not understand why this was fun. The kites served no purpose. They did not produce anything useful. They make people happy, Do-eun explained. Sometimes that is enough. Happy. She tasted the word like it was something new. We Velari do not use that word. We have words for satisfied, content, fulfilled. But happy implies something extra, something beyond usefulness. That is exactly what it is. Happiness is useless. That is what makes it precious. That night, they sat on a hill and watched the sunset. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple, then dark blue full of stars. Urena had seen countless sunsets on countless worlds, but she had never sat with someone and watched one before. She had never just been still and let beauty wash over her. Your species finds meaning in such small things, she said softly. We have to. Our lives are short. We cannot wait for big things to make us happy. We must find joy in moments. She turned to look at him. In the fading light, his eyes were warm and brown and full of something she was only beginning to understand. I could live another 50,000 years, she said. I have stopped feeling anything at all. I move through time like a stone moves through water, unchanged, untouched. Then he looked at me in my throne room with your ridiculous human eyes, and I felt something. For the first time in forever, I felt something. What did you feel? Curious at first, then worried, then. She paused, searching for the right word. Hopeful. I felt hopeful. Dawn reached out and took her hand. It was a bold move, incredibly intimate in Valari culture. But she did not pull away. Her silver fingers wrapped around his warm human ones. Is that why you came to Earth? He asked. To understand what you felt? No. Her voice was barely a whisper. I came because I could not stop thinking about you. For a being who has controlled her mind for 10,000 years, that was either madness or a miracle. Which do you think it is? She looked at their joined hands, silver and brown tangled together like they belonged that way. I think your species has a word for it. You'd call it falling. She looked up at him, and her galaxy eyes were brighter than he had ever seen them. I am beginning to understand why. The enemy came without warning. 300 warships appeared in the sky above Earth. They were ugly things, black and sharp like knives made of shadow. They blocked out the sun and cast darkness over the cities below. People screamed and ran. Car alarms wailed. The whole world held its breath. The Keth Dominion had arrived. Their message played on every screen. Every radio, every device on Earth. A Keth warlord appeared. His face like a skull covered in gray leather. His eyes red as blood. We know the Valari queen hides on your pathetic planet, he snarled. Give her to us and we might let some of you live. Refuse, and we will burn your world to ash. In the human command center, chaos erupted. Military leaders shouted at each other. Politicians argued about what to do. Earth's small defense fleet was nothing compared to the Keth Armada. They were outmatched in every way. Urena stood in the middle of the chaos, perfectly calm. She had fought the Keth before. She knew how dangerous they were. She also knew what she had to do. Prepare my shuttle, she told her guards. I will surrender myself. The room went silent. Everyone stared at her. No. Dohan pushed through the crowd until he stood in front of her. Her guards raised their weapons, but she waved them down. Absolutely not. Kim Dohan, you do not understand what is happening. If I surrender, there is a chance they will spare Earth. There is no chance, and you know it. The Keth will kill you the moment they have you. Then they will destroy Earth anyway. Then your empire will fall into civil war without you. Everyone loses. Then what do you suggest? Her voice was cold, but her eyes showed pain. I will not let billions of humans die because of me. And I will not let the woman I love fly to her death while I stand here and do nothing. The room went even more silent. Urena stared at him. He had never said those words out loud before. Not directly, not like that. His heart pounded so hard he felt sick. Your feelings cloud your judgment, she said softly. My feelings are exactly why I can see what you cannot. You have spent so long being logical that you forgot how to fight dirty. Fight dirty? Dohan smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a species that had survived ice ages and wars and plagues by being more stubborn than death itself. Your Majesty, what do you know about human history? Over the next 6 hours, Dohan explained his plan. It was insane. It relied on a dozen things going perfectly right. Any sane person would have refused, but humans were not sane. Humans were crazy. And sometimes, crazy was exactly what you needed. Captain Yoon would lead Earthships in a fake attack. They could not win, but they did not need to win. They only needed to distract the Keth, to make them look one way while the real attack came from another. Doctor Han would use special equipment to broadcast emotional frequencies that the Keth could not handle. Their species had no empathy, no emotional depth. Raw human feeling was like noise to them, confusing and painful. Jian would coordinate with the hidden Velari fleet, timing their arrival from hyperspace to the exact second, and Doan would fly with Urena directly into the Keth flagship. "This is suicide," Urena said when he explained his part. "This is love," Doan replied. "Same thing, really." She almost smiled. Almost. The plan began at midnight. Earthships launched into the sky, tiny and brave against the massive Keth fleet. Captain Yoon led them like a warrior from old legends, dodging enemy fire, drawing attention, refusing to die. Below, Dr. Han activated her equipment. Waves of raw human emotion, fear, hope, anger, love blasted into space. The Keth ships began to falter. Their perfect formations broke apart. Their communications filled with static and confusion. Then the Velari fleet arrived. Hundreds of silver ships burst from hyperspace behind the Keth armada. The enemy was trapped between two forces, confused by the emotional assault, suddenly afraid. But the Keth warlord was not stupid. He realized what was happening and retreated to his flagship, surrounding himself with his best soldiers. If they could not win the battle, they would take the queen with them. Dohan's small shuttle raced toward the flagship. Urena sat beside him, her face calm as stone. She had not told him everything about her plan. She had not told him about the weapon she carried inside herself. They crashed through the flagship shields and landed in a burning cargo bay. Keth soldiers surrounded them immediately. But Doan and Urena did not fight. They let themselves be captured and dragged to the bridge. The warlord waited for them, grinning with sharp teeth. The queen delivers herself. And her pet human. How convenient. Kill the human first. Make her watch. Wait. Urena's voice was soft but commanding. Even the warlord paused. Before you kill us, there is something you should know about the Velari. I know enough. Your kind are cold, emotionless, weak. Yes, we have controlled our emotions for thousands of years. Suppressed them. Silenced them. We thought it made us strong. She stepped forward, and her eyes began to glow brighter than Dahan had ever seen. But we were wrong. Emotion is not weakness. It is power. And I have been saving mine for a very, very long time. Urena opened herself. Every emotion she had pushed down for 10,000 years came flooding back. Rage at the Keth for their cruelty. Grief for the millennia she had spent alone. Hope for the future she wanted to build. And love, bright and burning, for the human standing beside her. She gathered it all and pushed it outward. The Velari were empaths. They could receive emotions. But the royal bloodline could transmit. The warlord screamed. His soldiers collapsed, clutching their heads. The emotional assault tore through their minds like a storm through dry leaves. They had never felt anything like this. They could not survive it. Urena walked through the chaos, stepping over fallen enemies. Her galaxy eyes blazing with 10,000 years of feeling. Humanity taught me something, she said to the warlord as he writhed on the floor. They taught me that emotion is not noise to be silenced. It is music to be played. And I have been silent for far too long. The battle ended. The Keth fleet surrendered or fled. Earth was saved. And in the burning bridge of an enemy flagship. Dohan took Urena's hand and held on tight. That was terrifying, he said. Yes, she was shaking, overwhelmed by feelings she had buried for millennia. I had forgotten what it felt like to be this alive. Welcome to being human." She laughed. It was the first time he had ever heard her laugh. It was the most beautiful sound in the universe. The story of the Battle of Earth spread across 17 star systems. Everyone heard about how a human linguist and an alien queen had walked into an enemy flagship and won the war with the power of emotion. Some believed it. Some thought it was just a story. But the Keth Dominion knew the truth, and they never attacked again. The Valari High Council had no choice but to accept what had happened. Their queen had proven that human emotions were not a weakness to be feared. They were a strength to be learned. Slowly, carefully, the council agreed to let humanity join their galactic alliance. But the biggest changes happened far from politics and councils. A year after the battle, Yarina walked through the cherry orchards outside Seoul. The blossoms had returned, filling the air with soft pink petals. Dahon walked beside her, holding her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. "The council wants me to return to emotional discipline," she said. "They think I've lost control. Have you?" "Completely." She smiled, and it reached her eyes in a way it never had before. "I have ruled for 10,000 years. I have watched stars die and empires rise and fall. But until I met you, I never knew what happy meant." "Not really." Dawn squeezed her hand. "I never thought I would teach an ancient alien queen about happiness. It was not part of my career plan." "What was your career plan?" "Study languages. Write papers no one reads. Die alone surrounded by books." He grinned. "You ruined everything." She laughed again. She laughed often now, something that still shocked everyone who had known her before. The cold, distant queen had become someone who smiled at flowers and told jokes and held hands with a human. They sat down under a cherry tree, petals falling around them like gentle rain. For a while, neither of them spoke. They did not need to. Some moments are too perfect for words. "My council will never fully accept this," Yarina said finally. "A queen bonding with an alien. It has never happened in our history. Then we will be the first. Humans are good at being first. First to fly. First to split the atom. First to fall in love with beautiful alien queens. I am serious. Dawn, there will be challenges. Resistance. Some will try to tear us apart. Let them try." He turned to face her, his brown eyes meeting her galaxy eyes. "I would fight every council member, every angry alien, every star in the sky if it meant staying with you. You are so dramatic. I am human. Drama is our specialty." She touched his face, her silver fingers gentle against his cheek. "You will age. You will grow old while I stay the same. And then you will die, and I will continue on without you. Does that not frighten you?" "Of course it frightens me. But I would rather have one lifetime with you than eternity without you. That is what love means. It means saying yes even when you know it will hurt. It means choosing someone even though you will lose them." Tears appeared in Yarina's eyes. The Valari did not cry. It was the ultimate loss of control, the thing they were taught to avoid above all else. But she cried now, and she did not try to stop it. "Your species is absolutely infuriating," she whispered. "I love you too." He kissed her then, under the cherry tree, with petals falling around them like stars. It was their first kiss, and it was everything both of them had been afraid to hope for. The years passed. Doan aged as humans do. Gray appeared in his messy hair. Lines formed around his eyes. But he never stopped smiling, and Yarina never stopped loving his smile. They had 53 years together. 53 years of cherry blossoms and sunsets and quiet moments holding hands. 53 years of teaching each other what it meant to love and be loved. On the last day, Dahan lay in a bed in their home outside Seoul. Yarina sat beside him, holding his wrinkled hand in her ageless silver one. She had not left his side for 3 days. "Do not be sad," he told her. His voice was weak but warm. "We had so much more than most people ever get. It was not enough. 1,000,000 years would not be enough. Maybe not. But it was wonderful." He smiled at her one last time. "Thank you for letting yourself feel, Urina. Thank you for choosing me. I did not choose you. Love chose for both of us." She leaned down and kissed his forehead. "I will not forget you. Not in 1,000 years. Not in 1,000,000, I know." He closed his eyes. "I love you. I have loved you since the first moment I saw you. I know. I felt it." His hand went still in hers. The room was quiet except for her tears. Kim Do-on, the human who taught a queen to love, was gone. 100 years later. A statue stands in the heart of Seoul. It shows a tall alien queen holding hands with a shorter human man. People from across the galaxy come to see it. They read the inscription at the base, written in both human and Valari languages. Love knows no distance. Queen Urina still rules her empire. She governs differently now, with kindness and compassion that her ancestors would not understand. Humans serve in her court as emotional advisors, teaching the Valari how to feel again. Every year, on the anniversary of the day they first met, Urina visits Earth. She walks through the cherry orchards alone. She sits under a specific tree and watches the petals fall. And she talks to him. "I still feel the butterflies," she whispers to the wind. "After all this time. Every time I think of you." Somewhere, across the vast distance between life and whatever comes after, Do-hung hears her, and he smiles.